The word appears to be out about Shakespeare in the streets. I was part of an estimated crowd of 1,700 at the opening performance on Sutton Boulevard in Maplewood. If you haven't already heard of it, Shakespeare in the Streets is an outreach program of Shakespeare Festival St. Louis. It sends a creative team to a local neighborhood to lead the residents in developing and performing an original script about the community within the framework of a play by Shakespeare. That's the description I used last year, but it isn't quite accurate anymore. The festival's playwright in residence, Nancy Bell, drew from several Shakespeare plays for Remember Me, this year's play about Maplewood. Her primary sources were Hamlet and A Midsummer Night's Dream, but she borrowed from Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet too. The excellence of Bell's writing has been a constant of Shakespeare in the Streets from the start. This year's script is no exception. The first scene of Remember Me is based on the opening of A Midsummer Night's Dream, with Theseus and Hippolyta discussing their impending wedding. But this Theseus, played by Aaron Orion Baker, is not ruler of Athens, but mayor of Maplewood. His Hippolyta, played by Janetta Perkins, is not an Amazon queen, she's from Clayton. The setting continues to be Maplewood for the next scene, but the source shifts to the appearance of the ghost in Hamlet. This choice reflects how impressed the festival's creative team was by the number of ghost stories it heard during the interviews in Maplewood. Eventually, we see a whole parade of ghosts in the form of enchanting giant puppets produced in collaboration with Living Arts, a studio in Maplewood for artists living with and without disabilities. The character of Horatio in Remember Me is based on two Living Arts artists. Hamlet in Remember Me is a Maplewood historian, played so convincingly by Joanna Cole Battles that I'd like to see her in the original part. The ghost that appears to Hamlet is the spirit of Clara Clamorgan, whose marriage was annulled when it was discovered that she was of mixed race. The crucial point is that Clara's ghost spurs Hamlet on not to revenge her wrong, but to right it. Hamlet achieves this goal by staging a play within the play, but not the mousetrap from Hamlet. Instead, we get a version of the Rude Mechanicals play from A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was performed right after the marriage of Theseus and Hippolyta. So the wrong to Clara's marriage is righted by a play that celebrates the marriage of another mixed-race couple. It cannot be an accident that Hippolyta and Clara are both played by Janetta Perkins. Bell's replacing Hamlet's play within the play with Midsummer's was a masterstroke. But as much as I admire the ingenuity of Bell's script, I'm even more impressed by the humanity of its message of inclusiveness. I wish I had more time to give adequate praise to the actors already mentioned and to Anna Grimm, Emily Baker, and Tracy Ponticello as the Maple Weird Sisters, Phyllis Thorpe as Bottom, Rachel Tibbetts as Horatio, Reginald Pierre as Bernardo, Stephen Vita Tronacek as Francisco, and Michael Weidel as Osric. And I have to give high praise to director Lucy Cashin, musical director and composer Joe Taylor, production designer Mark Wilson, costume designer Jennifer Krychek, props master Meg Brinkley, and production manager Tom Martin. The response to this show on the night I attended could not have been more joyous.
It was a splendid show.